Welcome. I'm Kevin Miller, and this is a podcast for your personal evolution. In this episode, reveal and mitigate your codependency. In the world of self-help and psychology, there are people who have made certain topics household names. Gary Chapman, for instance, made love languages famous. Henry Cloud is the grandfather of boundaries. Eckhart Tolle helped us conceive of the ego concept. And Melody Beattie is why we know about codependency, due to her classic tome, Codependent No More, How to Stop Controlling Others and Start Caring for Yourself. I was so honored to have an audience with Melody to discuss the book for a revised edition just a few years ago. Since that time, Melody actually ended her time on Earth, but her message lives on strongly. Melody is literally cited as one of the pioneers of the self-help movement. The breakthrough book of hers still remains the resource on codependency. Newsweek named Codependent No More one of the 4 essential self-help books of all time. Melody actually added a chapter, a new one on trauma, to this revised edition, and that's what's out now. And it went right to the top of the bestseller charts once again. And as a human, can we be completely non-codependent? I'm not sure, but by becoming aware of the signs and the habits, we can surely mitigate and mediate codependency in our lives to a great degree, I believe. As humans, we innately look for A's from people: approval, affirmation, attention, acceptance. And how codependent we are relates to how much we need those A's to feel okay about ourselves. It's nice to get them, of course, but are we okay? Can we be okay without them? Can we be at peace without desperately needing positive feedback and reinforcement from people? Well, the answer is yes. That's the hope. And this show is going to discuss the how. When I asked Melody about her own life and any regrets, which kind of a neat thing that I did that not too long before she actually passed away, she flatly stated, "I regret that I've spent much of my life ragging on myself for not being enough." That was profound to me. So this is a thoughtful, pondering discussion with the legend, Melody Beattie, where her compassion for herself and others, I think, will pour through to you as it did to me. So coming up next, my discussion with Melody Beattie and this talk about overcoming our codependence. Let's evolve ourselves. Melody, the title of this show, the podcast, is called Self-Helpful, and you are one of the pioneers of self-help. So I don't know if anyone I'd want on the show more. I'm incredibly honored. Thank you for being here.
I'm pleased to be here. I like your title, Self-Helpful.
Yeah.
I've always really not liked that title. You know, my books got put in that category: self-help. Yeah. Well, I've never been able to just help myself ever in my life. I needed light to hold on to.
Well, there we go. There's a great kicking off point here, because it is. And that's one of the reasons I chose the name. Is there's a lot of baggage around self-help, as you know, and a lot of, I'd almost say, misuse of it even, and well, right there for you to say that. So is that a key aspect of the, quote, self-help movement that we miss, is we do think that it is done autonomously?
I don't know. It is. It definitely is.
Okay.
The whole concept of pulling oneself up by one's bootstraps.
Yeah.
There's some problems we cannot think our way out of. And addictions, codependency, and other mental health issues fall into that category. We can't. When we're trapped in it, we cannot think our way out of it, and it's ridiculous to think we can. We need something beyond ourselves, something greater than ourselves, a force, a spirit larger than ourselves to combine with, to make our next moves in life and make sure we're on the path that we want to be on, that we're meant to be on. That, to me, is the very most important thing.
Well, it's interesting for you to say that. It reminds me of the overcoming programs and AA that I was initially, when I heard about those programs long ago, I was intrigued that they didn't really hold a religious aspect to them, but part of AA is acknowledging a higher power.
It's a very spiritual program.
Yeah.
I know some people that could not get sober until they got that.
Yeah.
That they had to somehow let their spirit get engaged with what they were doing. Or it would be like baking bread without yeast. You know, it's not going to take.
Well, it's interesting as we're on the topic of codependency, which you can get a flavor from your message that we need to be less dependent to a degree on others for certain things about ourselves. And yet you're citing right off the bat here the need for a dependency on something greater than ourselves. Is that a fair depiction?
It's pretty fair. It's pretty fair. I'm at a place in our society where I'm scared to mention the word God. Absolutely terrified of getting canceled. But yet to deny what a factor the spiritual aspect of my recovery is. It wouldn't have happened without my relationship with a higher power. It would not, and it would not mean nowhere I've been on my journey could I get and then get out of without my higher power. It just is essential. But that's me.
Well, somehow it feels like you've done a good job. I mean, the book, Codependent No More. And I got to be honest, Melody, when I first got contacted by your agency, I didn't tune in right now to who you were, to Melody Beattie. But when they said it's Codependent No More, well, who doesn't know that book? It's such a prolific book. And you obviously, speaking of cancel culture, somehow you massaged what you just said, your belief in the need for a higher power and even God, with not getting stuck in or discounted for a religious context. I can't define how you did that, but you seem to have done that well.
I've been doing it my entire career.
Okay. Well,
what I heard through the grapevine is the original publisher of Codependent No More almost didn't publish it because they thought I was a religious fanatic. Oh. And then how it worked out was that someone on the editorial staff, Terry Spahn, lived in the same small town I did. I was writing for the newspaper, and I was just generally, whenever I could get something in there about codependency, I would write an article about it. And he saw my writing in there, and he knew that I wasn't a fanatic, or I wouldn't be writing for the daily paper. And he was the one that instrumented the publication of that book. And Hazelton was my intentional number one choice to be my publisher 36 years ago when that book became published. That was my intention. I set out. I knew I wanted it. They turned it down, and I thought, all right, well, I'll just write for the paper. Well, but when Hazelton called back, I knew it was so meant to be. I knew it was so meant to be.
Well, obviously, and here we are with the revised edition, 7 million copies sold. And I do want to hit some, I think we just did, but hit some other really 10,000 foot aspects of this before we dig into the details. And as I look at and read your information on codependency, which I've read before in the past, but now I've just been studying again, of course, it looks like, at the root, for people listening right now, for this self-helpful podcast audience, we are talking about, at the root, pain. And if they've got anxiety, fear, frustration, those are aspects of pain, and they have those regarding a spouse, a child, a family member, a friend, another person, another human relationship, would you say they are likely entangled in some aspect of codependency?
I before I answer that, I want to initiate one of the hardest problems I've had with being the author of this book.
Please.
And it is this, I don't know how we ended up with it, but there is so much stigma. I even have it about saying, I'm codependent. Okay. I find it can be very embarrassing. It's not what I wanted. I'm grateful for it, but it was never my intention to grow up and become the queen of codependency. Mm-hmm. There's just something that, it doesn't sound right. And yet it's what I've been led to do. So I want to downplay that word as much. We needed a word to put a label on behaviors that are very human. Yeah. It's very human to care that much when our child dies, when our child gets sick, when our child might be dying. It's very, very normal to get that engaged or overly engaged when our spouse is drinking up or destroying all the family resources, and everyone is focused on that spouse, whether it's the husband or the wife or whatever their genre may be. We focused on the dysfunction, and I know I have my own visions of what it means to be codependent. It's me at my bottoming out.
Okay.
Where I am absolutely obsessed with another human being, trying to sort out how I can control that human, how I can make them do what they want, not for my own gratification, because by that act, I'm saving my family. I'm preserving the very core of my life, my family relationships. We still can't control another human. We can't do it. But that desire to not lose is a human. It's a very human feeling. So we're doing the wrong things for the right reasons, essentially, with codependency. And it's human. We need a roadmap through these emotions, through what to do when the Disney fantasy for our life doesn't come true. How do I handle this? How do I find my path in this? And so I just want to put that out there. It's very important to not stigmatize ourselves for having codependency issues.
As I do with all the shows, I'm here as your student, as your patient, and these are issues that I am interested in, curious about, and dealing with, and that's why you're on the show. And so as you talk about that, and you do give a lot of examples of specifically alcoholism, but other things where you have, especially in a marital relationship or close family intimacy, you have somebody who is doing something relatively harmful, and then you've got somebody that cares about them, and it starts this codependent relationship. Is it also possible? Well, I'll just own it. I feel, Melody, like I have fallen into codependency over my lifetime, and it's something I kind of adopted as a kid. And I look at even early relationships that I had with my peers, roommates, teammates, whatever, and I tended to put myself in this role of, I'm there to fix everything. I'm there to do more. And I'm feeding my self-image and some voids and some issues that I have there. And so I've got to take care of everybody. And I grew into being responsible, taking responsibility, I should say, for people's behaviors, for their feelings. And to some degree, I feel like I kind of became codependent. I don't know if it was so much of a cause and effect. I was the cause. Is that possible?
It absolutely is. Okay. I mean, it's always an inside job.
Okay.
We have an incident, okay? It might happen when we're 4, when we're 6, when we're 8, when we're 20. And we have the feelings, and we don't have help processing the feelings, so we start writing our story. And the story is, I'll never, this always, it's some kind of a story that then becomes our story and our way of living our lives. For many of us, that's what codependency is. And I mean, my codependency was set up before I married my alcoholic ex. Well, he's deceased now. It had been set up, well, first, by the time I was born. I mean, I'm talking about the time period I was born in, 1948. Women were just being elevated slightly from being chattel back then. Divorced women, no. I came from a very abundantly Catholic state of Minnesota, where getting divorced, making waves, rocking the boat, just it wasn't acceptable. Yet I had a mom, she was out there all the time, making waves, rocking boats, screaming, getting in fights with people. And in fairness to her, as a single parent back then, she did a decent job raising me. She sent me to a good school. She bought me my first computer. Okay.
God bless her.
We're very happy to get crumbs when we come from a tough family situation. We're very grateful. I'm grateful for what my mom did for me. I owe her that much respect. She didn't have it easy. We need to look historically. She had 7 brothers. 2 of them later in life went to jail for being pedos. You know, I mean, it's hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And when we take that pain and make it our story, then we start writing our script for life. But we all have the power to rewrite that. Every one of us does.
And that's what we're here to talk about. Another big question then, just to kind of give us this umbrella of what we're talking about here or how it manifests, is being codependent. When you say somebody is, let's take, I'll own it for me. So if we say that I am fairly codependent, am I all codependent? Meaning, am I in every relationship, or can you be selective and say, gosh, you have a really codependent relationship with this person. Over here, you seem to function pretty well. Is that possible, or is it across the board?
It's possible, because not everyone is going to have the same level of neediness in your life, and tend to be more codependent with the needier people.
Okay.
And less codependent with the very self-sufficient people, because they're not going to be asking that much for us. We probably won't have connected with them that much initially, because if they don't need us, who doesn't want to be needed? But when we build our relationships based on that, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Well, let's talk about that need. I mean, I'm thinking about this. So, Melody, I've got kids ranging in age from 27 down to 10. So I'm still I've got all spectrums going here, and looking at some of my younger kids, and it's been amazing to see them from birth, and they come up and they primarily think well of themselves. They're in a fairly good home, I hope, and they think well of themselves. And then there's that coming of age and self-awareness and social awareness, and all of a sudden you've got this kid who's kind of a bright and happy kid, and you've got them and they're really struggling with their self-image and how they feel socially. And I wondered, I mean, does some of this begin with almost comparison? I mean, we're in such an age of comparison, but is it not until they get into school and they start taking tests and realize, gosh, they didn't do as well as their buddy did over here, or they're in athletics and they didn't come in first and they did this, and now they're seeing their lacks, or that they're not Superman like they wanted to be when they were a little kid. And from that, they start having these needs, these deficits that they then look for filling up in another person. And is that a lot of where codependency spawns?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew where the belief that we're not enough and we're not somehow fit for life.
Yeah. I
wish I knew where that came from, because I would market it and I would give it away to every human being for free. That pervasive sense of not being enough. I suspect I don't have all the answers and all the riddles about life, about how we get here, about do we come here with any baggage? Do we get it all after we come here?
Yeah.
It's not our fault what happened to us as kids. It is our responsibility to become conscious, mindful of it, and make our best steps forward to fix it, to adjust it. And what's more important is that we're telling ourselves a proper story about our life. It's very easy to get into the darkness of the old story. That can be so easy. And it doesn't help us. It doesn't help others. And it doesn't help our world right now to focus on so much of the negative. I would say the primary, you didn't ask me this question yet, but I'm going to answer it.
Please.
Why did I upgrade Codependent No More? Why did I rewrite it? Oh, I didn't rewrite it. I didn't upgrade on most of it, but I did add some all new work to it, in particular one chapter.
Yeah.
And when I time traveled back to sitting in my office in Stillwater, Minnesota, writing that book, I had my outline. I had turned it in. I felt really good about it. But it came to the last chapter in the book, the chapter that's now 21. And I went, no, something else goes there. Something else goes there. But I didn't know what it was. That was because I hadn't lived through it yet and suffered through it, and I didn't have the words yet. So when I sat down at the beginning of this year to write that, I realized what it was that I didn't have a handle on and couldn't write about helpfully in Codependent No More. And that is trauma and anxiety. I believe if there's any cultural problem right now that we have, it is trauma and anxiety. If I could give everyone a gift other than Codependent No More, a gift, I would give them each the gift of learning to meditate. I mean, proper meditation, and then do it every day, 20 minutes. I don't know any other way to get through these times right now. I read an interesting article yesterday. It was about anxiety is contagious. I believe from 9/11 on in our country, I believe we started national and international global trauma at a level that has just grown and built ever since then. Now, I'm not a statesman, I'm not a politician. I do think of myself more as a spiritual journalist. And I traveled all over the world. There's so much anxiety and trauma with people being afraid to say the wrong words. People don't even want to talk to each other anymore. They want to scream at each other. They want to holler. They don't want to hear what the other person is saying. We've gone a bit off. And I don't know any other way. You don't start by just doing something new. You have to start with a reset. We need to start with a reset. I think COVID did that for a lot of people. I know it was a step up for me, which will make more sense after my next book. But I found it very comforting to have societal permission to slow down, to stay at home, to meditate, to be quiet, to consider what it is I wanted to do, to consider who I wanted to spend time with, who I wanted to see. I mean, I might not be able to see him except on a FaceTime call, right. But I really appreciated that time of going within.
Let me ask about, on codependent, and even that, because you continue to talk about connection with people, and I just want to really uncover how you are defining codependency. And with this, because I can generally look at it as somebody who can be fairly introverted and autonomous and say, okay, I don't want to be codependent. I will just be completely independent. And yet in that, I can very easily miss the need for relationships.
Right. It's just the other side of the coin. You know, it's not necessarily
thank you. Okay.
A good thing.
So in that though, is it fair to come over here and say, and this may be elementary, but I'm an elementary guy, to look at it and go, I need to be in a relationship, but I don't need to be there to fill my voids or fill the ones that only I or God can fill. And my thought was going to the A's, the affirmation, the acceptance, the approval, the things that I find that when I am doing in my codependent relationships, when I am doing X, Y, Z, and I'm wanting certain reciprocity, I'm wanting that appreciation, I want that acknowledgement, I want that affirmation, that's where I've gone wrong. Can I be in a relationship? Can I give? And can I do that with, in a sense, no strings attached? I don't need them to fill me up. I need to be in a relationship, but I don't need them to fill me up. Is that a fair layman's look at this?
That's a very good point. We're all a vessel. We're like a cup, okay? And we hold different energies at different times. But if we're coming into a relationship and our cup is empty, it can be a bit much. It can be a bit much for us. We don't know our cup is empty. We don't know we're trying to fill it. We're just grasping to fill ourselves up. I'm going to go back to meditation.
Okay.
We need to find out, it's an inside job, and we need to go inside and find out what we've got going on in there in order to be in a relationship and come at least with a half full cup. I would, if you were going to ask me to define codependency, I would say It's systematically loving others more than we love ourselves, to their and our detriment. It's that simple.
Well, hold on, right? Because right there, let's get religious then with that, because I come from a Christian religious construct where that isn't. It's die to self, serve others, just pour out. And I feel
But
like,
that's not true. That's not true.
okay,
What does it say in the commandment? It says love others as we love
as
ourselves.
we love ourselves, true.
It doesn't say love others and then hate yourself. We can only bring to others what we have in our cup. And if our cup is empty or only half full, we're not bringing a full human, a full spirit. I mean, it's very simplistic, but it served me well.
Well, obviously. And I mean, looking at this, I kept coming back, Melody, as I was studying the book, at self-approval. Can I be, in and of myself, approving, like you said, just okay with me and not needing that from another person? And I think it's easy to say, but it almost feels, it just can feel impossible. Like that is where we get our affirmation. That is where we gauge ourselves, is other people. And it feels, can it feel almost impossible to back off of that and be in relationship with others, but I don't need them. I'm self-approved because we are in relationship. We all are. And we can't help but care.
I know, ever since it was monkeys. I mean, people gather in groups, they watch the other monkeys to find out what they should be doing to belong. Being part of groups and being part of social groups is a huge part of being human. Yes, it's possible. It's nice to get that bit of approval.
Yeah.
It's also nice to get rid of ego, because ego is different than self-esteem. Ego and narcissism are very, very different than self-esteem. Self-esteem is quieter, it's gentler, it's more humble, it's sweeter, it's softer, and we don't have to go around screaming as much either.
Let me ask you about that then. So, of course, it would be, we'd all have to admit, does it feel good to get the A's? And I'll add applause in there. Applause, affirmation, accolades, accept it. Does it feel good? Well, of course it does. Is there then, can we look at that with health then? Because the other side, when you say that we don't need to, we need to get to a place where we can own that for ourselves. It's an inside job, as you said. But when we get it, it feels like we're also missing it. Maybe like you said, the other side of the coin, if we get those and we deny them. Isn't that kind of that false humility to go, just to know, I don't, just to put it off. Now I don't want your acceptance. I don't want your approval. I won't accept it, that we're missing it there as well.
We can nod at it. We can say thank you.
Okay.
But if it becomes our all, if we have to have it in order to feel good about our work, our personhood, our parenting, any of it, then we're in trouble, because we're automatically delivering agency to another human or source outside of ourselves. If they say I'm bad, I'm bad. If they say I'm good, I'm good. That is what it's going to make us crazy if we start looking for it. It's hard to get to that place where we can go, yeah, I'm okay with things, or give ourselves permission to be okay when things are messy. Give ourselves permission to be okay with ourselves, with our life, and with not knowing. We have such a hard time saying, I don't know, in our country, in our world right now. And there's so many things we don't know. And half the things we think we do know, we don't really, do we? In the end, we're in the process of learning.
Yeah. You make some statements somewhere in the book, might even have been in the intro. To me, they were incredibly, I was going to say compelling, but really convicting. And it had to do with our propensity, those of us who display these codependent tendencies, to try to control the world. Well, let's just start there. Just control. Again, you're studying your book, studying your material. It just brought me to my own looking in the mirror and look at my efforts to control the things around me, the people around me, and generally my propensity to do that so that I feel okay. I want you to be happy. I want you to be at peace so that I can be at peace. Because if you're not, then I can't. And so it's this effort to control you to get what I need. And I have been, Melody, I see you smile. I've been stuck in this. I've done it with my wife. I've done it with my kids. I've done it with friends, as opposed to stepping back. And the book I'm reading right now is called Letting Go, and letting go, and yet still caring. Go ahead.
All right. This is rather simplistic, but I'm going to take people down into two groups.
Okay.
There's people that create codependence, and there's the codependents.
Okay.
The people that abuse, destroy, and the people that want to create and help make better and soothe.
Okay.
What was your initial question? I got all caught up in my sidetrack.
Well, it was ultimately just looking at our efforts to control.
All right. So some of us have good reasons for wanting to control others. Some people have negative intentions. It doesn't matter. We cannot ever, no matter how hard we try and no matter how much we do, can't control anyone. And it won't make us happy when we do. We're never, ever, ever going to be any happier when we get what we thought we want than we are right now, this moment in time. Getting someone to do something isn't going to change us or change our state of being. It's very understandable we'd all be terrifically into controlling right now, because it's also a natural inclination when things feel out of control.
Yes. Yeah.
Around us. Very few of us can sit and watch our whole world falling at our feet and go, oh, I don't care. And I don't know that would even be normal or helpful. But we do need to acquire a great deal of letting go as we walk through our days. And the place where we can think our way out of difficulties is before reacting or responding, asking ourselves, how do I want to respond? Is this my business? Is it my job to do this? If I could say what I really felt in my heart, and sometimes that's just a plain no, I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry you're having that problem, but I can't help you. I wish you the very best. Most of us have this living with controversy can feel like we've been sentenced to hell for many of us. If we've got someone really upset with us, if we've got a controversy that we can't smooth over, if someone is just insisting on being an ass, that can be very hard for our constitutions to live with that kind of controversy. It's also a real test of our ability to live in self-love for ourselves, to be able to go, all right, I'm having this conflict right now. I'm not going to take it on myself. It's a cloud. It's a cloud in the sky, and it's going by. And this is what I want to do to handle it. This is what I feel guided to do to handle it. Some of us are so terrified of living with controversy, or living with anyone upset with us or angry at us or just not liking us. It can be very difficult, can it?
Yes, I can speak to that because that's me. Melody, I am. I'm incredibly conflict averse. I want everybody happy with me. I have struggled, and I'm a work in progress right now. I have struggled so much with being okay with somebody not being okay with me. It's very difficult. And to what you also said, is it my job? Asking that, is it my job in a relationship to, my word I continually use is responsible, to be responsible. And I have been a husband and a father who has, out of good intent, I think, good heart, I really do want to serve, and I want those affirmations and approvals, and I want those things. And I have jumped in to fix and take care of, and I was going to say enabled. I've kind of disabled to some degree, disabled some of my kids from growing and strengthening and learning how to do things on their own and to have consequences. And it's interesting as I have older kids that I did that more with, and now I have younger kids that I don't. And I just step back for the most part. And unless they ask, I step back, and I probably do about 25% of the work that I used to, because they don't need me. It's amazing how, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it is busy work. And the greatest harm we can do, there's two great harms we can do with our kids. We can totally neglect them, or we can stop them from learning legitimate consequences to their own behaviors that results in them having a sense of that by the time they're 20, 21. It should be a growing sense from the time of age 12 on. This is my responsibility. This is what's going to happen in life when I don't tend to my responsibilities. If we take that on, then we're living two people's lives, aren't we? But yet, with our children, it's so normal. We don't want them to fail. We don't want them to hurt. We don't want them to suffer. And being codependent on our kids is a natural part of life that we gradually let go of by the time they're 12. I mean, if we're still putting diapers on our kids and doing everything for them when they're in middle school, we're in trouble, and so are they.
Well, it's funny, Melody. I'm sitting here thinking about kids, and I had someone tell me, well, the story was that I witnessed was being at somebody's home. I was a kid and seeing them harp and harp on their little kid, trying to protect them from the wall outlets, okay, the electric outlets. And they had the little covers in there and little kids going over, and they're just, the kid was enamored with them, I guess, and trying to keep them out of there. Meanwhile, at my house, there were no covers on there. My little brother goes over there, toddles over there with a key and sticks the key in there. Shocked the bejesus out of him. And guess what? Never did it again.
Never did it again. No, that's probably not the best way to let them learn, but it is a natural consequence. And that's what we need to prepare our kids for. So by the time that they do get that shock, they know what they've done to create it.
Yeah. It was the brilliant concept of, do I house proof, or do I child proof the house, or house proof the kid? And so I didn't go along letting my kids get shocked, but it did change that to help them with some consequences.
Yeah. And that it's, no one wants to see their kid go through consequences. I mean, that's very hard. And yet it's very much a part of life. They're not ours.
Yeah.
You said something else earlier that I really like too. And you talked about being of service. I don't think we should automatically write off every impulse we have as being a codependent need to control. There is something healing, helpful, and regenerating about finding ways to truly be of service in the world around us, helping people where we can give something that's needed, that we have something to offer that's beneficial. And the key is we want to do it. We feel in accord. We feel aligned. And I like what you said earlier too about, does this go along with my values? Yeah. Is it in alignment with my values? Is it where I want to give? Is it what I want to do? And then just give our little hearts out, with no hope of getting pats on the head. I mean, we should be able to give our own pats on the head for being of service. We shouldn't need thank yous from people.
And that's where I continue to try to learn, Melody. And it's the question. Well, you came back to, you ultimately said we've got to be aware before we react. We need to be there, be present, and have a healthy response. When I do that, I go from being a consummate yes man. Somebody asks me something, do something, yes. And now I'm getting better. I don't know where I am on the spectrum, but getting better of stopping and going, how is my heart? Am I doing this and kind of gritting my teeth? Or am I happy to do it? And if I'm not happy to do it, I'm not helping them. And so either change my attitude, figure out why I could be grateful to do X, Y, Z, or as you said at the beginning, sometimes actually saying no is better for both of us. And oh my gosh, that's like a different language than I've ever had.
It's pretty scary too.
It is.
It can be very scary.
Especially for someone conflict averse as I am as well. But I see a lot of people in that boat.
Well, we can feel afraid and do it anyway,
Yeah. Well, I do know that. I'm learning to walk that out.
I'm only saying that because right before our interview, I had a phone call about someone wanting me to do something for him. And I said, I've got to go potting. I don't have time right now. But I knew what he was calling for, and I knew what my answer is, and it's no.
Yeah.
And so I immediately went into a little bit of meditation. It's like, just open your mouth, say it. That's what you want to say. So it doesn't ever, at least for me, it doesn't become 100% natural. Maybe that's why they call it recovery. I don't know. But if it's my intention to not sabotage myself, I won't be sabotaging myself. Not as much. No.
Well, it feels like you're calling us to hold that aspect of, yes, we do want to serve others, and there is beauty and glory in that, but not at the sake of ourselves and our own health and wellness, that doesn't, 1+1 doesn't equal 2 there.
Yeah. Would you want someone helping you if the whole time they were going, oh, Jesus, I don't want to do this. This is just, it's not pure help. It's not good help.
Huh. No, that's incredibly convicting. No, I absolutely do not want anyone doing anything for me begrudgingly, or being a martyr. I do not. And yet I absolutely do that to other people. That doesn't make sense. Which comes to some of your statements. I pulled out a bunch of them, Melody, from the book. And you said, it was kind of as I think you're dawning of this. And you said, I saw people, you gave a bunch of statements, but I saw people who felt responsible for the entire world, but they refused to take responsibility for leading and living their own lives.
Their own lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still remember writing that.
You said a bunch of those. I saw people who felt responsible for the entire world, or I saw people who constantly gave to others, but didn't know how to receive.
I'm coming to believe a lot of that is our state of mindfulness too.
Okay.
Has anyone ever told us it's okay to receive? Have we had any practice with that? How are we going to get it? What would it feel like? We don't have a mindset that even includes that for many of us. But the absolute beauty of this path is that it's a living, vital path. It's not something carved out of stone in a book. We each have what I call a path to well-being through life. And we may stop at similar places now and again, but we each have a very distinct path, and that includes who we're going to be in relationship with, where we're going to live, what we're going to do for a living, how that's going to change over the years, what we're going to do when we lose everything we have, and how we're going to come back. Those are just a few of our challenges. And at some point, we can start trusting this path to well-being too, and say, well, I don't know it all today, but it's okay if I don't know it.
Yeah.
It's okay if I'm working on this stuff. If it's just okay. We don't have to be nearly as perfect as we think we do in order to be enough.
I want to pull out another statement that you make, and it's going to be, I'm going to try to say it well because it's a controversial area when we're looking at gender and roles that we have. But you said, because I'm going to say a statement you did and add something to it and get your take on it. You said, I worked with women who were experts at taking care of everyone around them, yet these women doubted their ability to care for themselves. And I'm going to add on, and their propensity was to then look for care from their spouse, their husband, look for it from a man. Meanwhile, you've got men who try to be experts also at taking care of everything around them, commanding the ship, and not only didn't take care of themselves, but believed against it. I'm not going to the doctor. I don't need anything. I'm here to be a superhero.
I'm macho.
I'm macho. Yeah. So we have both sides doing it very poorly, and possibly out of good intent to serve others, but it's still that controlling and taking care of at the sake of self. And you said women who don't believe they had the ability to care for themselves, and men who were rejecting the concept of taking care of myself, because that's weak.
I know. And I was working with a hardcore group. Most of the women, and I talked about women, was because the person they were codependent on was in prison for the first, second, third, fourth time. I started working with a very hardcore group of people, which was probably good. Yeah, it's a messy subject. Life is messy. We keep trying to make it neat and perfect. It's not. And we are going through huge, humongous changes in looking at relationships and defining our sex, the nature of relationships, who we're going to let be in relationships with each other, what relationships we're going to honor, which ones we're going to respect. It's all been thrown up into the air.
And meanwhile, I'm going to pull another quote that you said. You said, I saw mere shells of people. And this is something you wrote a long time ago that is, as you said, it's not only as relevant today, it may be more acute today than ever. You said, I saw mere shells of people racing mindlessly from one activity to another. I saw people pleasers, martyrs, stoics, tyrants, withering vines, clinging vines, and borrowing from H. Sackler's line in his play, The Great White Hope, pinched up faces giving off the miseries. And Melody, I find myself looking at others and sometimes looking at myself in the mirror and saying, we're not having fun. What are we doing? What's the point? Is this really what, to come back to God, is this what God made me for? And I'll tell you, to look at it from a parental view with my kids, is my hope for them that they would have pinched up faces giving off the miseries, or would I hope that they would, had a bunch of my kids, a majority of them together this weekend. They're at the house and I am reveling in their joy and their fun and their joy of the food and the drink set out before them, the games, the laughter, that's what I want for them. I don't want them in there all laboriously with pinched up faces. It doesn't make sense. Is that the point?
We want them letting their light shine, don't we? Kids naturally let their light shine. For some reason, we've learned to diminish our light over our lifetime. And that's one of our larger jobs, is learning to humbly and quietly let our light shine on this planet. And that includes joyously doing what we're doing, having fun, or when we don't feel good, openly crying or saying, no, I don't want to do that right now. I'm not feeling good enough.
It feels like a tension of the letting go. We talked about that earlier, and how to do that without completely letting go. And I don't want to, with all due respect, I'm going to use the concept of the monk, solitary on a mountaintop, all alone, not a care in the world, totally at peace. It sounds great, but I'm not going to be that guy or gal.
Well, he's at peace because he doesn't. I want to tell you a story about a monk in a monastery in Tibet that I met. I was over there for 3 months with a hiking partner. This was like the biggest mountain we were climbing, and it was so cold. It was colder than it was in Minnesota. And we got to the top of this mountain, and then our guide led us into the monastery, and we walked through all these hallways and upstairs and down more hallways. And then we got to the monk's room, and the dude was laying on a top mattress over like a bed of coals. It was all done appropriately. And he was smoking pot, So yeah, he had his thing working for him. And it made me laugh. It made me smile. We have all these visions in our mind of other people being so much more appropriate for life than we are, knowing what to do, executing those desires meticulously, and having these perfect families, and that we need to get all those Disney ideas out of our head, because that's not really how our world works, is it?
It's not. And to take the monk like that, I'm thinking it's great. There's literally no pressures. If that guy's going to go get married or have a significant other and be in an intimate relationship, if he's going to have kids, there's going to be some pressures that are probably going to violate that harmonious time on the mountain. Now, on the other side, I don't want to be the consummate American who is not present for a solitary second as they're busy and harried. I want to be, well, I don't know. Do I want to be somewhere in the middle, or are we talking about, no, I want to be something else entirely?
Well, that's what the Buddhists say, a middle road.
Okay.
a middle road with all things.
Well, that's the effort then, is to find that middle road of not having this. It's interesting, as we talked about God at the beginning of the show, how often is that a predominant aspect of the codependent, to have somewhat of a God complex. And it came up in a show recently, even the thought of how arrogant is it to think that, one, I can control so much, and then two, that I should.
That we even know what's best for another human being, when the majority of us rarely know what's best for ourselves without serious thought and deliberation.
That I could, how arrogant of me to think that I know, to think, and also, and this is a hard one, especially as a spouse, as a parent, to think, I don't want to diminish my role and diminish my responsibilities. And yet, if I step back and go, if I got wiped out, would there be some trauma in the family if I disappeared from death or whatever? Yes. Mm-hmm. Would they all end up homeless in the gutter? No, probably not. They'll survive. And again, to somehow carry the tension of the gravity of what I do, but also, again, I'm not God.
I really learned that when my son died on his 12th birthday. Because he was okay, but I wasn't. Even my daughter knew. I mean, everyone expected me to be okay after his death. And my best friend even said, she said, you'll be over this in a couple months. And I knew when we were in the hospital room and I turned the life, I was with the nurse when she turned the life support off because he was brain dead. I knew it was going to be at least 20 years before I could breathe again. At least. This was no 2 week, 2 month, 2 year. It was going to be 2 decades before I could function. Yeah. So the truth is, we sometimes need others much, 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 much more than they need us.
Well, and how to do that healthfully is the point of your book.
Well, to do it the best we can without inflicting injury on others and without inflicting unnecessary injury on ourselves. Yeah. The truth is, we've made life much harder for ourselves than it has to be. Yeah. Much, much harder by all this extra caretaking.
Well, the trauma and anxiety that you talk about, that you added into this revised aspect, there's some pieces even on meditation, and you know what? Let's tackle them in part 2 of our Talk Together, right. Melody. Thank you so much for being here.
We'll have a break and give it a go.
Let's do
Bye.
it. Thanks so much for joining us in this discussion. That again, Melody Beattie, the book that has now been revised with this added chapter on trauma, Codependent No More, How to Stop Controlling Others and Start Caring for Yourself. Till next time, here's to the evolving you and me.
Yeah.